Spent. Nigga, where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going?
We are going to another episode of HardFoul Radio. This is the show that values time and puts God first. So appreciate everybody for tuning in today. It is a wonderful Wednesday. I'm a little sick, if you can't hear in my voice, so I apologize if a little more coughing than normal. But we're here. We're excited. So let's have a great time. So we all understand the NFL is the king of sports, right? The NFL has dominated the NBA. It has dominated Major League Baseball, and it is leagues above everything else. It is, throughout American history, as far as sports are concerned, Major League Baseball held the title. Then the NBA took it during the Michael Jordan era. Magic, Bird going into Michael. And then the NFL has had it for convincingly the last 15 years or so, where it has just become a monster unto itself. And these are all businesses, and all these businesses have ideas and ways to promote themselves. The NBA has what I think has actually turned out to be a really brilliant idea, is the in-season tournament. I did not like the in-season tournament when I first saw it or when I first heard of it, but the way, even the courts, I'm not going to lie to you, I like the courts. They look weird, they're super colorful, they're really bright, but I like the courts. It just gives the NBA, it is a way of promoting itself and saying, hey, this is a big game. Hey, this is different than an average Tuesday night game in November. So the NBA is actually a really good job with that. Major League Baseball, make the game shorter. We're losing fans. Attention spans are shorter than ever. Let's get a pitch clock. Let's start moving this up because we are losing too many viewers. And that's what businesses that inherently know they're in second place have to do. They just have to make themselves better. When you're the business that's in the lead, when you are the Walmart, you are the Amazon, when you are take your big Fortune 500 company or take your big tech company, when you know you're in the lead, you start swinging at other guys. And you take full advantage of the fact of you know how big you are in this space, and you know how much power you truly have from both a marketable and a fiscal position. And that's what the NFL is doing. The NFL, I don't know if you know this, just got Beyonce to do the halftime show for the Texans-Baltimore game on Christmas. Historically, Christmas has always been owned by the NBA. We all sit down with our families. Then 10 a.m. rolls around if we're on the West Coast, and we start ignoring our families, and we have 4 to 5 basketball games. And it's been a glorious day for the NBA and one of their big days of the year forever. And the NFL said, we're bigger than you. We're more popular than you. We're going to put a big-time game between arguably the guy who's in the lead to be the 3-time MVP of the National Football League, and we're going to put the other guy who's the reigning Rookie of the Year, one of the bright young stars in the NFL, and oh yeah, by the way, we're also bringing Beyonce. What do you do if you're the NBA? Because the NBA, again, I just said, I actually like the in-season tournament, what they've been doing. But that doesn't take away from the fact of the NFL knowing how big it is, knowing how popular it is, knowing how much power it has. It's taking a big swing to say, we're going to knock you out of the spot. Yeah, Christmas has been the NBA forever. We're going to change that. And the NBA is already struggling. The NBA has, its ratings are down, its viewership is down. People, the way they just talk about the sport, the product on the court is down. Guys are missing games. Guys are sitting out. Load management. Everyone's shooting threes. The NBA already has all of these problems. And now the train that is the NFL coming 100 miles an hour. Now, you're never going to lose one of these giant sports leagues. They're all too big to fail, as they say. But the NBA has a real problem on its hand. Now, the other part of this is the NBA. The other part of the NBA's problem is what it's doing currently is really good for its players. Guys are making more money than they've ever made. Guys are getting more sponsorships than they've ever made. And guys who are more skilled are getting rewarded more than they ever had. Except all that stuff does nothing for the fans. No one gives a rip if the Supermax is now X amount of $1 million a year and Luka is going to be making $70 million a year. When Victor Wembanyama, when his time comes up, he could potentially be making $90 million a year. We don't give a rip as the fans. So the fans, it's working for the players. They're going to make more money. They're actually playing an easier game because of rules on defense and the fact because it is so three-point oriented. Guys don't even have to run, as stupid as this sounds, a full NBA court to play a game anymore. You can damn near run three-point line to three-point line. So it's easier on them. Defense isn't enforced the same way, and they're making more money than they've ever made. And the fans are leaving. Again, too big to fail, and no one's going to totally give up the game of basketball or the NBA. But there's also a leadership problem in the NBA. Tony tweeted this out, and I 1,000% believe him. In business, there's just certain guys you don't fuck with. They just have created a reputation by their actions or their demeanor, and everybody kind of knows when they're doing something, you stay away, either out of respect, fear, or an understanding of it's just gonna be bad. David Stern was that for the NBA. David Stern was no bullshit. A lot of the stuff that flies today would not fly with David Stern. I don't think the NFL would do this to David Stern. I don't think they would encroach on Christmas so hard where not only did they make sure to schedule potential MVP, the reigning MVP, and the reigning Rookie of the Year, big game, and we're going to get Beyonce. I don't think they do that if David Stern is still the commissioner of the NBA. The fact is, Roger Goodell just does not respect Adam Silver. The fact is, right now, a lot of the players just don't seem to respect Adam Silver. Adam Silver is one of those guys, I don't know him, obviously, but the perception and the way people are treating him, the facts that we have, that we can all see, he is a hand me out, I'm going to give you, and because he keeps on giving and he has no real line on when to say, hey, I'm going to stop giving, I'm going to start being like the boss or the manager, the guy in charge. I'm going to make the hard decision to say, no, we're not doing this. He's never done that. And so everybody keeps taking and taking and taking. And now we're seeing the result of that. The product on the court, all the issues with the ratings, and the NFL. And now the NFL's taking a big swing at you. And Adam, your response cannot be, why are NBA ratings down? Well, because of the presidential election and the World Series. Adam, those are recurring events. You know those are going to happen. You are aware there's a World Series every year. I know a lot of us haven't watched as much baseball in the past, but there's a World Series every single year. There's a presidential election every 4 years. There's midterm every 2 years. Like, these are things that you can foresee. These are not valid reasons for you to say, well, that's why viewership is down. So the NBA's got a huge problem, and the NFL sees it. They're taking advantage of an opportunity, and they are swinging. NBA's got a problem, man. The NFL, they're coming 100 miles an hour. They don't care. It's get out of their way. They're the biggest thing on the block. They're the biggest and baddest business, and they are setting the rules. Let's transition from the NFL to NFL media. And I think this is ironic. And normally I save most of my Bronco topics for Tuesday, but this one's gotten pretty big over the last 24 hours. Now, the media never really likes to admit they're wrong because they want to hold this air of, I'm smarter than you. That's why you come to listen to me. I know more than you. That's why you watch my podcast or you go to my YouTube channel. Because I'm smarter, because I know more, because I'm more this than you. I need to prove a point. I believe if someone trying to do the same thing, that's really stupid, and that's why we have hard right and hard left, is because, yeah, sometimes I am really smart, but it's my own opinion, and sometimes I'm really wrong, but it's my own opinion. And it's just my job to give it to you in a creative or interesting way. It's not to prove some point if I'm smarter than you or not. But a lot of legacy media, a lot of especially the insiders, a lot of the guys that have been on ESPN, FS1 for however many years, they want to be right. And so Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, they beat the Atlanta Falcons 38-6. And a lot. It's not, the discourse is not, wow, look at what Denver's doing. Look at what Sean Payton's doing. Wow, look at the trajectory of this roster. It's, well, actually, is Atlanta very good? You know, are they? All I heard all week was Denver potentially is going to lose twice because they're going to be so mentally distraught from the Chiefs game and the blocked field goal that they're actually going to lose 2 games. They're going to lose that game to the Chiefs, and they're going to lose the game to the Falcons because they're going to be too distraught, can't pick themselves up emotionally. But it's not Sean Payton doing a great year in year 2 in Denver and why he should be in consideration. I don't think he'll win it, but should be in consideration for Coach of the Year. It's not, oh, Bo Nix should be in consideration for Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's not, oh, look at Denver's offensive line. Look how much better it's gotten in the year and a half under Sean Payton. It's, well, yeah, Bo had a good game, but yeah, the Falcons maybe weren't that good. It's all these excuses. It's all these, like, and then it was great. I went on Twitter today, and Bronco fans were trending because now we're suddenly the most annoying fan base in the NFL, because after hearing since draft night how awful Bo Nix was, how terrible he is, how, oh my gosh, I can't believe they drafted him 12th overall. After hearing that for months and months and months, and then you saw the Chiefs game, which they could have won, and then you see them dominate the Falcons, and they swept the NFC South, and now that we're saying, hey, look at us, our team's getting better. Look what Bo Nix has done. By the way, he's the Offensive Rookie of the Month. By the way, he was just a flat-out FedEx Air Player of the Week. By the way, he did something historically that no quarterback has ever done in the history of the NFL as a rookie. Yeah, we're here to say, look at us. Look at the improvement. Look at how good they're doing. And media members, people on Twitter are like, no. I mean, like, he had the numbers, but it's really not that. And then I got to hear this, and this is my favorite one. We'll close out here. It was expectations is the only reason why people are so high on Bo Nix. And that is, well, your expectations, heard this day on TV. Caleb Williams loses a game to a blocked field goal. And the feeling is he didn't play well enough. Bo Nix loses a game on a blocked field goal. And the expectation is, or the consensus is, wow, look how good that was for him. And while that could be true, it's also not like Caleb gets the benefit of expectations and Jaden Daniels gets the benefit of expectations. These guys were drafted in the top 5. They were the top 2 picks back-to-back of the NFL draft. Caleb was a generational prospect. Jaden was coming off a Heisman year. They were considered to be these huge home run, big-time franchise quarterbacks. Bo was supposed to be a bust. So when Bo started playing well about 2 months ago, it's just Bo Nix, we don't really care. It's just Bo Nix, whatever. Remember, I came on here after the Jets game, and what was trending during the Jets game? Look at Bo Nix' halftime stats. You looked at his halftime stats ever since the Jets game? Looked at his halftime stats against Atlanta? You looked at his halftime stats against Kansas City? Like, if you're wrong, just say you're wrong and move on. It's okay. I do it every Monday. Hey, this is what I was right about. This is what I was wrong about. It's okay. You're not, just because people can just like you because you're interesting or you're clever or you're funny. You don't always have to be right when it comes to your takes. It's okay. Media, I promise you. It's okay. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, though, we got a special interview today. It's first-time person coming on. What team is trying to write a really, really expensive apology letter to its fan base? This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. their owner is impatient, crazy, and irrational. Because I like Shane Steichen as a head coach. I do. I'm not as familiar with the general manager. I'm not going to really quote, how good or bad he is. He has gotten guys like a Quentin Nelson. If Anthony Richardson did develop, he's gotten a Michael Pittman. So he's, I believe, with who the overall talent on the roster, general manager, good. Good enough at least. Especially when you have someone like Shane Steichen as your head coach. But I do firmly believe the decision to bench Anthony Richardson was a call from Jim Irsay, who wants to be back in the Peyton Manning era where he's winning 10, 11, 12 games every single year. His quarterback's throwing for 4,000 yards. He has one of the best offenses, one of the best teams in the National Football League. He wants to go back to Andrew Luck those first couple of years, winning 11-plus games, making the playoffs. That's what he believes. He believes that the Indianapolis Colts are one of the best franchises in sports, not just that they were lucky to get two supremely talented quarterbacks. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. So, expectations matter, right? Like what is expected of your team clearly matters. Talked about this a little bit in the Caleb versus Bo Nix thing to start the show. Expectations in baseball are a little bit different because there's expectations of the players and there's expectations of the managers. But a lot of, especially in the offseason, all the expectations are on the front office. So the winter meetings are coming up, and it's weird because baseball even separates the expectations for front offices because there's no salary cap. There's only a handful of teams you really expect to be heavily involved in free agency. You've always expected historically the Yankees. Obviously, the Dodgers have gotten a lot more into it. But the Red Sox have always historically been huge spenders. They haven't been so much the last 5-6 years, and that was a huge shift. They said, look, we're going to commit to our younger guys. We're going to try to cut back. They basically had an entire franchise-changing philosophy that they no longer wanted to be the Yankees or what the Dodgers became or these big market spenders. And that's fine if you commit to it. But it does leave a lot of frustration towards your fans, for your fans. Tony being a great example. Tony grew up on a certain level of what the Red Sox, what he expected them to do, how they handled themselves, how they went about business. And that was the team he grew up rooting for. They then just stopped that out of nowhere, and it left him kind of in this, well, what are we doing? And remember, they compounded it by going, not only are we going to cut back, not only are we going to try, like, not we're just going to commit to young, we are going to cut back so much, we're going to trade this one guy. Its name's, I think it's called Mookie Betts. So not only did you decide to say, if you lived this life of luxury your whole life, your parents are really well off, and you were going on all these exotic cruises and doing all these exotic things that most people just never get to experience in their life, and then out of nowhere your parents go, nope, not doing that no more. We're going to be stingy. We're going Groupons. We're doing, everything to save money. It would be a culture shock for you. And it was a culture shock for Red Sox fans. And I think had it panned out a little sooner, I'm a big believer, I've said this multiple times, where organizations need to be on the same page, from ownership to general managers to the players, the head coach, managers, all that stuff. They only be on the same page. It's the only way you're ever going to have true, consistent, sustained success in any sport. But the Red Sox are now getting extra pressure because not only have all their young guys not quite panned out to the degree that they wanted them to, that guy they traded, Mookie Betts, just won his second World Series, and you and your fans aren't happy, and your ticket sales are down, and the sport as a whole is down. Like, at some point, you need to start, making some moves and start doing some stuff to be like, hey, look, we're still an incredibly credible franchise or a relevant franchise. We still have the potential to go do these things that we used to do historically. And that's what it looks like the Red Sox are attempting to do. They met with Juan Soto. They met with they have a planned meeting with the Japanese pitcher that's set to be posted this offseason. Like, they're doing things. They let a couple guys go to free agency. They're doing things that would make you believe, oh, we're going to start gearing up. They're in the Blake Snell conversation, supposedly. Now, here's where the expectations get dangerous. Because yes, it sounds great a week out from or a week and a half out from the winter meetings. Oh, we're gonna get Blake Snell. Oh, we're gonna get Juan Soto. Oh, we're gonna go and get the Japanese guy who's posed. Like, we're gonna do all these different things. And what happens if you get none of them? And now you've put it out there that we were trying. How did that go for the Dallas Cowboys this offseason? I said this when Tony and I were discussing early this week. The Red Sox are either going to write $1 billion apology letter to their fans that said, hey, we're sorry we tried this. It didn't work. We're acknowledging the mistake and moving on. And they're going to sign Soto. They're going to sign Snell. They're going to sign the Japanese pitcher. Or they're going to go full Jerry Jones and say, go all in and come out with nobody. And that's going to be devastating to this fan base. Again, I'm not a Red Sox fan. I don't really have a whole lot of sympathy for Red Sox fans. Y'all were rich kids forever, and now you're just no longer rich kids. Plus, I grew up at a time where it was like the Red Sox were great, winning World Series. I was way past the Bambino curse. The Celtics got the big three. They ended up winning a title, and the Patriots were the Patriots of Tom Brady. So, like, Boston had enough success. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is all earned. This is called sports karma. But the Red Sox are playing a dangerous game, man. I'm curious how this is going to play out. Again, it sounds great when you're potentially talking about signing this guy. And then what if you don't? If you tell kids, we're going to go here, and we're going to buy this, and we're going to do that, say what you want. But then trust me, you might say, like, it's not cruel to not give a child something, but it is cruel to tell a child, hey, we are going to do this, and then you take it away from them. And with that, we are joined by one of my new favorite people. You don't get a lot of people in your life that you enjoy arguing with, but some people just get that kind of connection on you. So with that being said, sorry guys, I'm a little sick again today, so excuse the constant throat clearing. We are joined, my boy Danny is in the building. How you doing?
Hello. How we doing, everybody?
So we call everybody insiders that come on here because, why not? You pretty much know as much as the insiders. So first off, I want to ask, your Charger fandom, entire life, or like when did you first become a Charger fan?
Entire life.
Entire life. All right, bet. Just because San Diego,
Yep.
just home team.
Yep.
Okay.
I've also I don't know, just not just because San Diego. I mean, they've had some ballers on their team.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Although their success hasn't really shown it, but
I was going to ask so obviously I've been here my whole life. There's obviously a term. And so to ask someone who is into sports to that level, who's been through it all, what is it like going through a lifetime of charging? Like, what is that feeling? The Broncos were asked for 7 years, so I trust me. I've been here, done that. What is the life of watching your favorite team lose in like a specific way?
I mean, it's been rough, to be honest. And but I've just always been loyal to them. I don't know. They've just always just been my team.
No, it's valid. Did it feel good because of that? I want to just set you up to kick you down. Did it feel good a game like Sunday night, even though obviously when you get up that big on a team, you like to just stay at, make it comfortable and easy Sunday night. But did it feel good that that's the game the Chargers have lost for like the last 15 to 20 years? Did it feel good that even though the game started to trend that way, this version of them with Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert in his prime, that they didn't blow that game?
It felt great, actually. Yeah. It felt like, they finally are not charging.
No, it's valid. Sunday, no, it's Denver during this 7-year stretch of being ass. It's like it's been pretty much the same story up and down, which is the defense is really good, but the offense can't score more than 14 points. And so it's almost doubly crippling because like you're in every game because your defense is good, but every time your offense prior to this year getting the ball is like, all right, what's the point? Like we're just trying to punt and get better field position, keep the defense in the game. Now, how do you feel? Obviously, right now they're in second place in the division. How do you feel about them in comparison? Obviously, right now the AFC West would have three playoff teams: Kansas City, the Chargers, and Denver. How do you feel about them going forward this season? Do you feel like they are a playoff team? And just kind of giving some of your thoughts on that.
I feel like we are a playoff team, and I feel like we could potentially do some damage in the playoffs, depending on who we play first too. Because
Okay.
if we were to go to the playoffs right now, we'd be playing Houston, and
You think they could beat Houston?
I absolutely this defense is great.
Yeah. That's I'm I'm iffy on what I feel like. I feel like the stats are great. I'm iffy on right now. If I said if you asked me best defenses in the NFL currently, I think Pittsburgh's got to be number one because I don't know, they win games solely on the fact of their defense, TJ Watt, those guys. Um in that 2 through 5, I think it gets really crowded. I think the AFC West has three of the top five defenses currently. Denver's top five, Kansas City's top five, and LA's top five. How high would you put the defense if you're just doing your own personal little ranking?
How high am I putting their defense right now?
Yeah, across the entire NFL.
Uh, at least two, maybe one.
You think they have a chance? You think they're as good as Pittsburgh?
Yeah,
Just defensively speaking.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Are you scared of the Chiefs? Obviously, the Chiefs have been they're the current dynasty in the NFL. They've got the
Honestly, sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
you're good. It's like they've got the if any team has the right to say our merits are good enough that we should be considered better than our record overall play, obviously it's them. Three out of so four Super Bowls, no one's denying that. I've been on all season though. I don't think the Chiefs, if you take them just in this 2024 version, are as good as the record. Obviously, they could have lost to Denver 2 weeks ago. They did lose this last week to the Bills, and there's several other games they could have lost throughout the season.
God, I
So
was hoping they lost to Denver so bad.
trust me, it was a heartbreaking day in my house. But with that said, how scared on a scale of 1 to 10, how scared are you? How scared are you of the Chiefs specifically, like this version this year?
Honestly, I'm not. Uh, this Chiefs team is very beatable, and I don't know. I might just be biased because I'm a Chargers fan, but I hate Patrick Mahomes, and I feel like he's just not playing as Patrick Mahomes this year.
No, I agree. That's
He's
like no
just,
wrong.
you know, not
No,
him.
that's there's still the moment, and that's why I think that's my only fear, and that's makes these games even worse. Is there's the moments on third downs or in the fourth quarter where he still does Mahomes type stuff where it's like either he runs for a first down on 3rd and 8, which is the most infuriating thing he does, or he makes the big pass. Like he still clearly has the attributes and the ability to perform at a high level when he needs to. But I think a lot of the stuff that a lot of people are just overblowing because again, that the current dynasty that won 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls, and so if you're going to give any team the oh well they'll figure it out, it is them. But the amount of turnovers, the interceptions, I just don't think it's a now their defense is great, but only offensively it's a well-run operation, and that's with Andy Reid as their coach.
Right.
So and we won't argue. We have our arguments off, Mike. But I wanted to ask you just your general opinion. So myself and several other fans, and a lot of people on social media, there's normal complaining about the refs that you and I think agree on, which is fans are going to bitch because that's what fans do. Call doesn't go their way, whether it's the right call or not, they're just going to complain because it's something that feels uncontrollable, especially from a fan's perspective. And it feels like, oh my gosh, of course, we got a big run and they call holding stuff like that. So fans are going to normally bitch. How much do you think refs get right in a average NFL game in terms of like percentage of calls made correctly?
How much do I think they get correct? I mean, they get probably around 90% of the calls correct.
And for those
I
of you
mean,
not listening,
from the calls that they make, 90% of the calls. Now, I'm not saying that they see every single call, they make
Hmm.
every single call, but I'm from the calls that they make, they're correct about 90% of the time.
No, it's valid. Um, and I think we both agree that there's just a hand, like there are certain calls that I think most fans would agree we don't want to see every single holding called because you could look at offensive defensive line all game and yeah, you could probably call 5 to 10 holding calls a game if you really want to get into it, but then you slow the game down and I don't think that's a good product for anybody. Um, where do you draw, I guess, the line on what for someone who refs, for someone who's more invested in the average person? Where is the line for you theoretically on like an actual like again, fans are gonna bitch they think every call is game altering, every call just totally just destroyed the game. That's why their team lost. It's like there were Falcons fans complaining this week and they're like, oh well, we saw that hold. It's like you lost 38-6. Sorry, the one hold did not make you lose 38-6. Um, where would you draw a theoretical line on what is a game determinative kind of call from a referee perspective?
I mean, the second half of any game is the most important.
Hmm.
So you always want to make sure your best game is refed in the second half. Uh, I'd say if calls start coming in, uh, I mean, it all depends on the game because it could be a really close game till the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, something happens. Do you fuck up? Somebody fucks up. Sorry, excuse my language.
No, you're fine.
Um, and it just alters the game. But it's not the refs that alter the game. It's just the call that happens, and everybody thinks that that's what it is, or it's because your team's the one that did it, or it's what happened to your team that's why they say it. That's why it's altered. But I don't know. Um, I guess in a close game, anything in the fourth quarter, basically.
Do you believe in as a ref, do you believe in swallowing the whistle on an important play? Like the idea if you let the players decide the game, and as obviously there's a handful of egregious things like, if Justin Jefferson's run downfield and you just tackle him mid route, it's like, all right, cool, we got to throw the flag for that. But if like Hail Mary situations, for example, there's all kinds of interference. Guys are all pressing up against each other, and none of that shit would get called, even though you could argue most Hail Mary, probably 90% plus of Hail Mary plays, there's pass interference for both offense and defense. But generally the ref will
But
just swallow the whistle
that's
on that.
yep, exactly, because it's going both ways.
Correct. No, I agree with that. There's a clip from when the Chiefs and Broncos played 2 weeks ago. Surtain and DeAndre Hopkins damn near were just like wrestling on the sideline. Like it was just they were letting it be physical, but they were doing it both ways. And I was like, cool. Do you like? I guess that's what I'll ask is from a fan's perspective, and I'll even use for a slightly analytical perspective. All I think I really want
So
is consistency. Like I want,
right,
like again, if you're gonna be extra physical and let the receivers be extra physical, or corners be extra physical, do that the entire game. Don't call like the one ticky tack one after you let these guys go at it for 45 minutes. You know what I mean?
but it's also did the referees talk to them? You know, did the referees tell them, hey guys, all right, cut it out now, let's play football? You know,
No, it's valid.
because we don't know that as a fan.
Hmm.
We don't. Um, and I'm not saying that just to back the refs up. I'm just saying like as a as as a ref, I let it slide. Even me, I so my position is an umpire. I'm in the
Hmm.
middle of the field. That is literally the most action as a ref that you could get, besides maybe the white hat because he's like right in front of me, and so
Hmm.
he's seeing the same action from the other side. But so I get linemen clapping at each other. I get linemen pushing each other. I get linemen calling each other this, calling each other that. I get late hits. I get late tackles. I get all that stuff. I hardly ever blow my whistle. I hardly ever throw a flag. But I'm in there and I'm like, yo, get up, boys. Yo, let go. Yo, stop doing that. Hey, cut it out. Hey, cut it out. And then once it starts getting egregious, once it starts getting too much, okay, now I'm throwing flags. Now I'm blowing my whistle at you. Because I already warned you. I already let you know.
Okay,
I let it slide a couple times. I let it go a couple times. Cool. Okay, now you're doing it too much. Now you think you're just gonna get away with it because I'm letting it slide.
Okay, so that's interesting to me. So I don't think in fairness, I don't put that into perspective probably as much as I should, which is the conversations. And obviously they don't mic up the refs the mics have a ref, but you're there to watch the players play. No one's really there to watch, the referees talk to each other, etc. But that is I think a good point as far as defending the refs that, yeah, as a fan, when you're watching the game, you don't know these little micro interactions that are happening. You don't know because the refs do dictate the game in a certain way. Like, regardless of if they let everything go or they let a lot go or if they're calling it extra tight. And again,
right. And each white hat is also different. Even in the NFL, every white hat is different. They have their certain ways that they want to ref, and that's the way that the game's going to go from every single ref on the field. Another white hat could be different. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think I'll get you out of here on this. Do you think reputation goes a long way in anything that we do? If you are always on time, people are just going to assume you're going to be there. If you're always late, like my wife, they're just going to assume you're late.
I mean, yes. The best. My sister used to tell me this growing up. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior.
Correct. So, do you think some of these teams that are well coached, well run, etc., just get the generic benefit of the doubt, even amongst refs from a whistle?
No, no team has no ref has a favorite where they're just like, oh, we're gonna ref this game differently towards this team because of this. It just so happens that the better teams don't make as many mistakes. The better teams get away with more stuff because they're better at it. I don't know. They're not as obvious, I guess.
No, I agree with you I agree with you to an extent on this, and that's because the Patriots forever, when Tom and Bill were both there, they were always one of the least penalized teams, and you could see you could see the routine, you could see the practice going into it, like they were just a really well buttoned up team, and you're like, okay, and then you could watch the Raiders growing up, and you're like, oh, they're like swinging on people like in between plays.
Yeah,
Of course, they get penalties.
Yeah.
And so I do think that's valid. I want to start doing this. We're gonna see how long we can do before we piss Danny off. I don't have one today, but if we can get you here regularly on Wednesdays, I'm gonna start pulling up like one or two plays that I want to get. I want the actual breakdown from a ref's point of view. So, meaning if I show you a play, whether it was called a penalty or not called a penalty, but just kind of like what the ref is supposed to be looking for, kind of a breakdown in that manner. Because I do think, and I shit on him, but I have two levels of shitting on refs. I have just the fan in me, which is kind of the heat of the moment, and I'm like, oh, I think that was bullshit. But again, receivers and DBs are the best because a DB will commit pass interference like flagrantly. And then when the ref throws the flag, they'll be like, what you mean? And what did I do?
Up. Yep.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, guys, I understand. That's some of the sportsmanship of it.
My best one is my favorite is like when DBs are pressing and stuff and then they're holding for too long and then they start throwing their hands up like, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything.
No, 1,000%. The players aren't sweethearts here. Don't get me wrong. So that's why I think it'll be interesting to bring you on here, have like pull up some plays. We'll do the screen record that way you can see, and we'll kind of go through it and just, identifying like where the ref's looking at, what the ref's supposed to be doing, and whether it's something that should have been called, shouldn't have been called, and kind of in some of that perspective here. Before we let you go, the Chargers play the Ravens this week. What's your confidence
Um,
level, 1 to 10?
so I'm confident, but I'm
I think it's in
nervous.
Baltimore, isn't it?
Yes,
Yep.
but I'm
Denver just got
nervous.
blasted by 30 there. Oh no, it's in LA.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so it's in LA. So it's at SoFi.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Lamar Jackson. It's
That's
Derrick Henry.
Tell me about it.
We went against the Bengals this week, and they came back on us in the second half. So that's with Joe Burrow and really no one else. Jamar Chase, I guess, but he didn't really do anything against us.
I mean, he got a touchdown. I'm gonna give Jamar his credit.
Okay,
The-
but
So what's
then
your
like I don't know, man. The Ravens are good, but they just lost to the Steelers too. So
so I need a confidence level and I want a score predictor. I do this with Will when he comes on here. We have him do a
well,
confidence level and predict the Bears game.
I'm a confident 7.
All right. Score prediction?
Gonna be a close one. Uh, let's go 32-30.
Damn. It's a great defense until Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry start running RPOs. Again,
Yeah,
that's
we'll see how that goes.
man. Look, it was in Baltimore. Denver had to play him, but Denver gave up 41, and I'm like, bro, Denver probably doesn't give up 41 like the next 3 games combined. And lo and behold, they've given up only 20 the next two, and I'm like, fucking Lamar Jackson. Um, but no, I appreciate you for coming on, man. Again, like I said, if we can get this, we can get you back next week as well. We're gonna break down some more plays from the ref's point of view and stuff like that. But
Yeah, that'd
yeah,
be cool. I'm down with that.
no, I appreciate you for coming on and hope the Chargers lose.
Yes, sir.
All right, and we are back. again, not feeling the best. Excuse me. There's a couple more things I wanted to talk about. We're gonna wrap it up here at some power rankings. I wanted to bitch about PFF and their just ridiculous rankings that they had, and for this week especially, like Caleb had a higher PFF rating than Bo Nix, even though Bo had a higher completion percentage, more touchdowns, more yards. It didn't make sense, man. But again, it's Wednesday, and Wednesday we normally do power rankings, and again, even though I'm a little out of it, I did want to get onto our stepping stool. I think we're finally getting a really clear idea of who actually the best teams are, of who actually is competing for a Super Bowl. And I've been saying this all year, and I still feel this way. About my 10 through 6 spot, it's a lot of yeah, they're good. There's clearly a flaw here, and so to me, these are just the teams that are the best they've all obviously got a major flaw, but these teams are the best of the teams. They do one thing specifically great, and so I want to capitalize on that. So with that being said, this is this week's version of the Stepping Stool, and this is where we rank our top 10 teams in the NFL. Starting at number 10, I've had them here. I've had them here. I said this, the way they played against the Chiefs, they were good enough to win. They're 6-5. They just blew out the Falcons. Look out for, it's not just the stats, but if you actually watch the game, look at how Bo Nix, his feet, he's confident compared to all the other rookie quarterbacks. Washington's not on this list anymore, even though they have a slightly better record. Bo plays better against teams that are above 500. Yes, he swept the NFC South. I'm aware of that, and 3 of them aren't that great. But the Bucs, when he played them, the Bucs were over 500. There's no longer over 500. Bo has his confidence. Sean has his confidence. This defense has been elite all year. Again, all these teams at the bottom have something that they do great. And for Denver, that is their defense. But Denver also has some of the highest potential to turn around the thing they don't do great or elite, which is their offense, the better Bo plays. This is the 10th best team in the NFL. And number 9 is the Texans. And look, I don't think the Texans looked great against the Cowboys, especially because the Cowboys were injury depleted, and the Texans, we all just have to acknowledge they weren't as we all tried to elevate them immediately because CJ had such an amazing rookie year. I myself included. I've had them in the top 5 at multiple points this year. But the reality is, for the Houston Texans, this is a great place to be. You draft your franchise quarterback, you have your new head coach, you make the playoffs as a rookie, and you're going to make the playoffs again, potentially winning playoff games in both years. Remember where this team was 2 years ago, fighting for the number 1 overall pick, and man, do y'all love Smith an apology. So being the 9th best team in the NFL, being an obvious playoff team, you're the best team in your division by a mile, which really is what's going to help them out a lot. They're going to get a home playoff game. The AFC South just isn't very good, and so we elevated this team a little higher than it should have been, but I still think this is one of the 10 best teams in football. Number 8 is the Packers. I've thought this was a coaching story. I have a lot of reservations about Jordan Love. I think there's a lot of Brett Favre here in terms of play style, and I don't love that in the year 2024. Yes, it's great to be a gunslinger. Yes, it's great to get the explosive plays, but there's a reason why. Like the young guys, and it's very obvious when they're young, they make the most gunslinger or turnover-worthy plays. Just talked about PFF. Like, it's why we all like Drake May right now. He's doing the big plays. He's on back-to-back game-ending interceptions, but we don't care because he doesn't have the kind of pressure on him that Jordan Love does. But Jordan Love plays a lot like Drake May, and that gets me nervous. I love LaFleur as a coaching staff. Their defense is better than I thought it was going to be coming into the year. Jair Alexander is still one of the best corners in the game. Like, there's a lot to like about Green Bay. But honestly, I love this is a coaching story, and I'm scared that their quarterback plays outside the system more than I'm comfortable with. Weirdly enough, would feel slightly not that much worse if Malik Willis was a starting quarterback. And I know Jordan Love is obviously better than Malik Willis. But yeah, Packers at 8. At 7 is the Chargers. Now look, the Chargers at any other time in history, this would be considered a dominant team. Offensive line, great at both tackles, good in the middle. Offensive line's been doing its thing. Running game, boom, J.K. Dobbins, the comeback player of the year, potentially. What he's been doing. Justin Herbert, who's been elite in essentially every single game. Every single game this year's had a 90-plus passer rate, or 90-plus, passer rating. So he's been consistent. He's been great. The defense, number 1 in NFL in points given up. In any other year or any other point of time, this is where perception's huge. This would be considered easily one of the 4 or 5 best teams in football. but there's just something about the Chargers we're not quite sure. Now, remember when we talked to Danny, I do think it's a huge sign that they won the game against Cincinnati, because those are the kind of games they've lost historically. And so to win that kind of game, this could be a huge boost. And I think the Chargers could absolutely go up. I think they're going to be, it's unlikely they catch the Chiefs, but they're going to be the team in the wild card that nobody wants to face. No team is going to, like right now, I agree with Danny. If they were to play Houston right now, even though Houston has the higher seed, I think the Chargers would beat the Houston, especially in the playoffs. Probably the best of the clearly flawed teams. Again, the Chargers, the Chargers' real flaw is just the fact they don't have dynamic playmakers, and that will, in the playoffs, that can be a detriment. I don't think it's going to detriment too much in the regular season. Pittsburgh, obviously, Russ has played well, but I also think some of that's been overblown because, again, perception, expectations. Russ was so bad in Denver that him just being good or a little above good or average in Pittsburgh was going to come off as this monumental difference. And while it is, that still doesn't mean that much when it comes to the playoffs. Now, this is my first time having the Steelers on here all year. I was not high on the Steelers at any given point in time this year. I did think quarterback was going to hold them back. I do think Mike Tomlin, notice, we had a lot of really good head coaches down here. Mike Tomlin, Jim Harbaugh, Matt LaFleur, DeMeco Ryan, Sean Payton, a lot of great head coaches. And while I have to give Tomlin the utmost credit, the utmost respect for what he's gotten Pittsburgh to, I'm still just not sure how scary a Russell Wilson-led offense is in the year 2024. Obviously, this defense is amazing, but they've had this amazing defense the last several years. And this feels like all of these teams, with the exception of the Chargers and Texans, because they would play each other, these all feel like they're clearly playoff teams. They're also probably all one and done unless they match up against each other. At number 5, I've been very hesitant. I put them off the list for a long time, and I'm finally willing to come back to them. The Philadelphia Eagles. I know we've given the title to the Lions, but the Eagles, if you look at everything, there's a real strong argument their roster top to bottom is just as good as Detroit's. Now they're older. This is in the San Francisco class where they have a lot of older stars versus the Lions. Also their stars besides Goff feel young, and they're in their prime. But the Eagles, offensive line, defensive line, the secondary's improved. The defense, shout out to Vic Fangio, man. Wasn't a great head coach in Denver, but he sure knows how to coach some defense. And the reality of this roster, even though I still don't love Nick Sirianni, this roster is so good that they absolutely can be a top 5 team in the NFL. Now, again, it's weird to call them there because I think they can do this. As weird as it sounds, I think this team could win a Super Bowl without Nick Sirianni interfering. And I think Nick Sirianni's actually taken a step back, and that's why they've actually taken a step forward. So I don't put them totally in the flawed teams, but if you wanted to, that's fine. We have our best 6 flawed teams, 6 best flawed teams. This team's also got a flaw, but I don't think it's quite the same. The Ravens, obviously their defense has not been what we expected, but the talent on defense is clearly there, which is why I don't view it as much of a flaw. I think their scheme has taken a long time. Zach Orr, the coaching, what they've been trying to implement coming off Mike McDonald, that's taken some time. And I think they've just had a bunch of mental miscues. And because I think some of this is like the first time in the franchise history, like they have a dynamic offense. Yes, they obviously are the best running team in football, but they have as many big plays as anybody. Lamar, I'm not selling the Lamar could win MVP stock. I know everyone's going to Josh Allen this week, but this is still one of the best teams in football. Clearly one of the best teams, one of the teams in best position to win a Super Bowl. Lamar, again, as of right now, Lamar would still be MVP. Is Josh closing that gap? Yes, but I'm not willing to take it away from Lamar yet. The Ravens at 4. Kansas City at 3, and I'm not even sure that if the Ravens and Chiefs were to play today, I think the Ravens would beat them. I think the Chiefs have gotten a lot off of a little. I think the fact that, yes, this is just they're living off their reputation, which they've earned, they've deserved, they're the dynasty, but I just don't believe in this 2024 product. And so I will keep them towards the top of the list out of a respect for the dynastic nature of which they carry. But this is not a great football team, in my opinion. Again, look at the team diagonal from them. They feel like a slightly I trust their quarterback more than I trust Russ. But they're the Steelers. Great defense. Offense kind of makeshift. And I just don't believe I know everyone else is, I know a lot of Chiefs fans are convinced, and a lot of NFL media is convinced, because you can't say anything bad about the Chiefs this year. I'm not convinced that they're just testing stuff or playing around and not trying to put too much good film on tape. Like, they're trying to win games. They're trying to make history. They're trying to get 3 straight Super Bowls. And I just don't think this year they are good enough to do it. Now, again, 3 straight Super Bowls is incredible. So this is like, what bar are you comparing them to? Like, this is an all-time team, obviously. Mahomes is an all-time great. We all understand that Andy Reid, one of the best coaches ever. But I don't think this version, the 2024 version, is good enough to win a Super Bowl. I do think this version of the 2024 Bills is, though. And I was hesitant on this for a while, and I just believe Josh Allen. Again, I don't think he's the MVP at the moment, but I think he's figured it out. And I've been saying this all year. He has figured it out, how to play quarterback, how to be efficient, how to run an offense, how to be better than just the numbers. When it clicks and guys just learn how to start making the correct player, and they don't just go for the big player. They don't just do the things that they're naturally inclined to do or their athleticism allows them to get away with. Josh has figured out quarterbacking, and that's a very dangerous element. So even though this is the least talented version of the Bills, this I think is the best version, even with Amari Cooper. The Lions are one, guys. Look, this isn't tough. They are just running people over. This roster, top to bottom, they have the OC, they have the head coach, they've got the O-line, they've got their defense, which is the thing people say they're not good at. Go look at their defensive stats. I know we all said Aiden Hutchinson's out, the world's ending. Go look at their defensive stats, and Hutchinson went out. This is still a really good defense, and let's just say it's a good defense. You pair it with a great, potentially best offense in the league, especially when you consider this O-line, the way they can dominate time of possession, the way they just are running teams over. They are clearly separating themselves from the bad teams. Like, every other team on this list, even though these are the top 10 teams, you could all see them losing a game to a bad team. You can't see Detroit losing a game to a bad team. They lost to the Bucs. That's their one loss on the year, and the Bucs are not a bad team. The Bucs are injury riddled at this point, and they played the Bucs when they had everybody. So Detroit is smashing the bad teams. They're offensively, defensively, coach, OC, everything is working right now. And give it up, Detroit fans. You guys went through hell, but it's your turn. You are the best team in the NFL. And with that being said, you guys, again, like I said, I'm a little under the weather, so I'm going to check out here a little bit early. I know I've had a couple more things I wanted to get to, but I'm not going to be able to. I'm going to go eat some soup and take my ass to bed early. So